Welcome to a webinar by Team YEF covering the topic of probability and statistics. As we all know, YEF is a non-profit organization founded in June 2017 by Mr. Ram Babu Sharma. We have taken various initiatives for social welfare along with promoting knowledge and skills to the youth. We are driven by a hope to make these underprivileged children realize their potential. Our objective is to assist in education by reaching the last mile and alleviating poverty. There are a multitude of initiatives taken by us, the details of which are available on our social media handles. For further details, you can reach out to our volunteers or visit our website yefindia.org for more information. Now, I would like to invite Debajit to introduce the topic to us.
Yeah, thank you, Ali. Hi, all. So thanks for that wonderful introduction of our organization. Okay, so guys, let's delve right into the topic. So today's topic of discussion is as described before in the preceding slide, which is probability and statistics. So now let us try to understand a few basic terminologies that is used in this chapter. And now we will be taking the most common example of rolling a dice. And further, let's try to familiarize our concepts with these examples. So let us consider the first example figure below. A die is rolled and these are the 6 possible outcomes, or what we refer to as possibilities. So you can either roll a 1 or a 2 and so on up to 6. Now as we are rolling only one dice, so we will get only one of the 6 options. Or you can take the example of flipping a coin where the possible outcomes will be either a head or a tail. Now you might question what will happen if we flip two coins simultaneously. That we will also discuss in the subsequent chapters. But for the time being, let us concentrate solely on the first experiment. So as we can see, all these outcomes will comprise to what we refer to as the sample space, while each outcome is called a sample point. Okay. Now, let us try to familiarize ourselves with the concept of event. Now, suppose we are asked to find out the probability of a number that is written in green. What is the probability of a number getting less than 3 at one throw of a dice? In that case, we need to have a look at the outcomes and then decide which this result will be in a number which is less than 3. So clearly this is 1 and 2 that is circled in green. So these two outcomes are the only possibilities. So that becomes our event. Hence, in layman terms, sample space is nothing but a set comprising of all the possible outcomes of an experiment, while a sample point is only one possible outcome out of these entire possibilities. Event is basically one or more from these possible outcomes. Now, let us take the example of flipping two coins. The possible outcome arising as a result of one flip will either be a head or a tail. Now, when two coins are flipped as shown in the example figure 2, the events will be these, or the possibilities are head head, head tail or reverse, or tail tails. Those possibilities are represented in the table or by a tree diagram. Also, you can observe that the cardinal number of the sample space involving two independent events, that is the coin flips, is 4. So how did we arrive at this? So the concept behind this is when we have two things in succession, that is we do one thing, then the next thing followed by another thing, then the principle that we follow here is the multiplication of the individual probability or the multiplication of events. We will use this concept in detail in the subsequent slides. So as seen here, the cardinal number is 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4. So let's move to the next slide. So here you can see multiple definitions of probability. So let's look into each of those points. So probability, as per conceptual definition, it is nothing but the chances of occurrence of any particular event, or you can maybe say as odds in favor of something. Now, as per computational definition, the basic definition is that it is nothing but a fraction of the number of desired outcomes or successful outcomes over the total number of outcomes that are possible. the denominator is denoting what we refer to as sample space in the previous slide. For example, we were first introduced by rolling a dice in the previous slide, where one of the possibles of probability that we have presented. So there are 6 possibilities, which is 1 to 6 as shown in the first figure. Now, the probability for rolling at odd number, for instance, will be 3 out of 6 because 1, 3 and 5 are the only possible outcomes. Hence, the value as per probability in the next slide as shown, it is 3 by 6, which is nothing but half. Now, we cannot always apply this formula. So there is a restriction on which this concept works. If this condition is not true, then this formula will not work. What is that restriction? So the restriction is that the outcomes have to be equally likely and they're understood to be mutually exclusive. So when we talk about the fair die, it has an equal chance of landing on one side or the other, or you can view this as it has equal dimensions, or the weight is same on either side, such that when we roll it and it is not more likely to land on one side or the other. This is what is referred to as equally likely. Now let's move to the second point. The second point states that the numeric value of a probability of an event will always lie between 0 and 1. 0 corresponds to impossible event, while 1 basically signifies that the outcome is certain. Now, let's move to point 3. Point 3 refers to the summation of probabilities of individual components, as described in the example, which is self-explanatory. While point 4, last but not the least, this comprises of 2 basic properties of probability. The first identity states that the sum total of the probabilities of all the outcomes must always be equal to 1. While the second rule states that the definition of non-event is nothing but the probability of a particular event subtracted from 1. Now let us take 2 examples in the next slide. So pause the video, attempt the question, and then play it to view the solutions. Okay, I hope you have attempted the questions. So now let's discuss the solutions for them in the next slide. So for the first case, we have been asked that 3 dice are rolled. Now, what is the probability that the sum total of those 3 dice will be 5? Okay, so we will have 5 possible combinations as shown here. Now, how do we arrive at them in a fast manner? There is a shortcut for that. So in such cases, you fix the first position. Okay, say for example, we fix the first position as 1. So we get 3 possible combinations, that is 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, and 1, 3, 1. 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, and 1, 3, 1. Now, let's make the first position as 2. So we get only 2 combinations, which is 2, 1, 2 and 2, 2, 1. 2, 1, 2 and 2, 2, 1. Now, let's fix the third. Okay, we will fix 3 in the first position. Okay, so we'll get only 1 possible combination, which is nothing but 3, 1, 1. Notice that if you try any other combination, there will be redundancy. So we reject them. Okay. Now, so what are the total possible outcomes? That is 5. Sorry, it is 6. Okay, it is 6. We have 6 possible outcomes. Now, our next task is to find out the sample space. So, as discussed in the preceding example, that the sample space will be nothing but the multiplication of successive events. So, the one what we have in the denominator, which is sample space, will be 6 into 6 into 6, which is 6 cube. Hence, the answer will be 6 divided by 6 cube, which is 1 by 36. Now, let's come to the second example. So, this question states that we are rolling 2 dice basically. So, we are asked to find out the probability that the product of those 2 observations is even number. Now, you tell me, when do we have even number when you multiply 2 numbers? So if you apply logic, you'll find out that if either of those 2 numbers is even, then we will definitely have an even number. So let's find out the probability for each of them. The probability for even number will be 3 by 6, right? Because we have three even numbers, 2, 4, and 6. So which is nothing but half. And for odd number, you have the probability as 1 by 2 likewise, because you can arrive at this by two ways. Either you subtract half from 1 because 1 is the total probability, or you have 3 observations out of 6 which gives us the same value. So hence for the first case, the probability is rather the multiplication of both the probabilities, which is 1 by 4. The second possible combination also gives us the same result, which is 1 by 4. And the third combination is even into even, which is also half into half, that is also 1 by 4. Now our next task will be to add them, because we are applying OR operations. So we will add them. So the essence of my narrative is noting the points add, or, and AND. For OR we apply plus operation, and for AND we apply multiplication operation. So this will be discussed in detail in the subsequent slides. Now, do we have an alternative solution for this? Yes, we do have. So for that reason, we had discussed in the preceding slides, in the fourth point, if you could remember, the basic properties were discussed, where we had to find out the possibility for a non-event. Okay, so it is 1 minus the possibility of the event. So now let's go back to the example. So here we have to find out the probability for an odd number to occur as a result of the product of two observations. So that will be product of the first number is odd and the second number is odd. So multiply their probabilities, which is nothing but half into half, which is 1/4. And you subtract 1/4 from 1. So you get the same result and arrive at the same conclusion. Okay. So that's it. So let's move to the next concept. So the next slide deals with the type of events in probability. Guys, we are discussing about some of the events, like if probability is 0, what will happen? Probability is 1, what will happen? So this slide is pretty much self-explanatory. Like if you have p equal to 0, you have an impossible event. Well, if you have 1, then it is a sure event. Independent and dependent events is already self-explanatory and already discussed in the preceding slide. For exhaustive event, it means that all the events consumes the entire sample space. That is called exhaustive event. While complementary event is you subtract the set of observations from the sample space. And the example is denoted here, like where you have a die which is rolled, that event E1 is greater than 4. So E1 is 5 and 6, while E1 complement will be the others from the sample space, which is the observation from 1 to 4. So let's move to the next slide. So mutually exclusive, guys, this is important. So mutually exclusive means that the two events are actually in disjoint set. Okay, so by that I mean to say that there is no overlap, that is both can't happen at the same time, or if one event happens the other cannot. And for OR and AND we have already discussed. For OR we follow the union operation or the addition operation, and for AND we follow the intersection or the multiplication operation, as we had discussed in the previous example. Now let's practice some problems related to this in the next slide. So once again, I would request you to pause the video, attempt the questions of this slide, and then play to view the solutions. I hope you have attempted the questions. So let's discuss the solutions for them. Okay. So what the first question states? The first question states that a number is randomly selected. Guys, randomly selected means that it is equally likely as well as mutually exclusive. Okay, so let's delve into the question. So our sample space will comprise the entire first 40 natural numbers. Okay, so the value of S will be nothing but 48. This is clear. Now, as per the computational definition, we have to find out the numerator, that is the total number of possible outcomes. So let's see how we can arrive at that. So let's read the question. It says that the number is divisible by 3 or 5. Or 5 means you have to add them. Okay, so the result for that will be probability that the number is divisible by 3 plus the probability that is divisible by 5. Guys, is this enough? No. because there will be some numbers as well, such as 15, 30, 45. So they will appear in the first one as well as in the second one. So to avoid redundancy, we have to subtract the common elements. Okay. So these guys can also be done using a Venn diagram where you will be taught about the concept of union as intersection. But here you can apply this formula. There was another formula, if you could remember, that PA union B equal to PA plus PB minus PA intersection B. That aptly summarizes that question. We're applying the same thing here. So you find out the individual probability and then use that calculation. So let's find the number of numbers that is divisible by 3. So they are nothing but 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 and so on till 48, because 48 is divisible by 3. So you have 16. A shortcut way for approaching this will be dividing the entire sample space by 3 itself. Like you have 48, so you divide 48 with 3, you have 16. So suppose we have been specified a range. Say for example, we have been in that case, the shortcut will be as like the same thing. It will be 48 minus 4 divided by 3. Okay. The same approach for 5 and same approach for 15. Okay. So we get 16 from the first, we get and subtract 3 from the resultant and divide it with the sample space. Hence, the final result will be nothing but 22 by 48, which is 11 by 20. Okay. Now, let's move to the previous slide to see the second question. So it says that there is a quiz game of progressive difficulty level. So there are 3 levels, guys, and each of them have 10 questions. Okay. And the restriction is that if you answer even one question wrong, then you cannot proceed to the next round. You will stay in the same difficulty level. Okay. And we have been specified the probability of non-event. If you could see in that bold that the probability of answering a question incorrectly is 0.2 and incorrectly for D2 is something. Okay. Now let's move to the solution. So the condition is that that guy Tom is taking two quizzes. Okay. And after taking 2 quizzes, he will not progress to the third round. So for that, you can see on the right side that we have 3 cases. Okay. So in first quiz, he's failing in D1. Second round, he's failing in D1. Okay. Then he stays in D1, right? Or you have the second combination where he is failing in D1, then he's passing in D1. Then that means he's staying in D2, right? Or he's passing in D1, failing in D2, then he's staying in D2, right? So we have 3 possible combinations. So what you can do here, you can find out the individual results of the probability and find out the entire answer. But trust me guys, this is a very complicated approach. So we will follow the approach of the non-event, which is more simple. How? I will explain you how. So why not we find out the condition where Tom will be attempting the D3 quiz itself. So how that happens? That means in each of the rounds, he is attempting all the 10 questions of each round correctly, right? In level D1, he's attempting 10 questions correctly. And in level 2, in the second quiz, he's applying level D2 questions, all the 10 of them correctly. That means he's proceeding to level D3, right? So we have only one condition. So let's find the probability for the non-event, which means he's answering D1 correctly and D2 correctly. Okay. The essence again is on the emphasis is on the and, which I pronounced just now. Okay. So let's find out the probability for PD1 complement. Okay. PD1 complement is nothing but 1 minus 0.2, right? While PD2 complement is 1 minus 0.3, which is 0.7. Okay. Now, there are 10 questions in each round. So the probability of non-event will be 0.8 into 0.8 into dot 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 10 times multiplied with 0.7 into 0.7 dot 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 10 times. which is 0.8 into 0.7 raised to the power 10, which is nothing but 0.56 to the power 10. Okay, now guys, you have to subtract this from 1 because we have to find the probability of the event. Hence, the resultant will be 1 minus the probability of non-event, which is nothing but 0.56 to the power 10. Hence, this is nothing but choice E. So choice E is your correct answer. Okay, so overall, so that's it from my end, guys. So I would like to hand it over to Aishwarya to take it up from here. She will be discussing about the intersection set and the set theories, as well as the dependent events, which will be discussed in detail, okay, in the subsequent slides. So Aishwarya, may I request you to have the stage? Over to you.
Thank you, Debojit. Good morning, everyone. I am Aishwarya, and I'll be explaining you few easy and interesting concepts. So, let's discuss about intersection and union of set. Set X consists of these elements, and set Y consists of these elements. Okay, so if we have to perform union of X and Y, we'll perform the OR operator, which will include the elements of both X and Y. Okay, and in X intersection Y, we'll perform AND operation. So the graphical representation of these sets are given here in the Venn diagram, where set X has 3, 5, 7, 9, and set Y has 4, 5, 3, 9, wherein 3 and 9 are the intersection of both the sets. Sorry. So coming to the next example, this one's for you. Pause the video and attempt the question. For set A and for set B, we'll perform union operation for both of the sets, where we'll have the OR operation, and then for the intersection part, we'll perform AND operation on both the sets, and this is the graphical representation of both the sets, wherein 10 and 17 are common in both the sets. They are the intersection part, and for the union part, entire A and B set will be the union. Coming to the next part, that is the relative complement or the difference between sets. So we have set A and set B. So the difference between set implies that all the elements present in A but not B. Okay, so we have all the elements, but we don't have 23. So 23 will be the answer, which is also called as the relative complement. So if we have to calculate B by A, that will be B minus A. So all the elements in B, not A elements, will be the answer. So that's 66,3. And if we have to perform, if we have to do the difference relative, if we have to take relative complement of that particular set, for example B by B, that will be equal to B minus B, which is nothing but a null set or empty set, which is also represented by a phi. Coming to the next part, that is the universal set and absolute complement. So whenever we have to calculate the complement, we'll take the entire universal set minus the A part. That will give us the complement, that is A dash. So the blue portion over here will be the complement of A. Let us see an example. You can try it first, pause the video. Okay, so let's take an example wherein our universal set is integers and C comprises of 4 elements, 5, 8, 7 and 10. What will be C dash? So according to the concept previously discussed, C dash will be nothing but universal set minus the C part, that is this. So everything except 5, 8, 7, 10 will be in your C complement. That could be any integer like 4 or minus 2, minus 10, anything except 5, 8, 7, 10. Next, subset, strict subset and superset. So considering A, B and C, A, B and C set, what do you mean by a subset? So if you have to ask a question, if A is a subset of if B is a subset of A, we'll have to see if the elements of B occur in in set A. So we have a 4, we have 2, we have 5, so that implies that B is a subset of A. If we have to ask a question if B is a subset of C, if B is a subset of C, which implies does B has all the elements that is present in C, so we have a 4, we have a 2, and we have a 5, so that implies yes, B is a subset of C. If we have to take now what is a strict subset? So for a strict subset, is B a strict subset of A? Now we have all the elements of B are present in A, but A also have some additional elements. So that implies that A is a strict subset of B is a strict subset of A. And if we have is C a strict subset of B? So is initially, if we have to see, like C is a subset of B because we have a 4, we have a 2, and we also have a 5. So C is a subset of B, but C is not a strict subset of B because we have additional elements in C which is not present in B. Coming to the superset part, is A a superset of B? So A has additional elements apart from the elements that is present in B. So yes, A is a superset of B. And for the if is C a superset of B, so even C has additional elements that are present with the elements of B. So yes, C is a superset of B. Coming to the next, these are all the answers if you want to check yourself. Coming to the next part, bringing the set operations together. With all the concepts which we have learned up till now, we'll apply all those concepts and solve this question, wherein set A comprises of these elements, set B, set C, and we have to solve this equation. So pause the video and we'll see the solution now. So first, initially, when we see a equation, first of all, we'll have to solve the solve the expression which is inside the parenthesis. Okay, so B by C. What is B by C? B by C is nothing but B minus C, the relative complement. All the elements in B, but not C. So all the elements in B, but not C. So we'll remove hashtag 3 and 17. Hashtag 3 and 17. So the answer will be 0, blue. Okay, so we have to take, next thing is we have to take the complement of that part. Taking the complement of that part implies we have to everything in the universal set except for 0, blue will be the answer for B by C complement. Now we have to take intersect this thing with A. So A has 3, 7, -5, 0, and 13, and we have to intersect this part with the universal set except 0, blue. So everything except 0, blue. So we'll remove the 0 part, and 3, 7, -5, 13 will be the answer for this expression. Okay. Now the next part is we have to A divided by the entire expression. So let's consider this expression as x. So A divided by x will be nothing but A minus x. So from that part, from A, we'll have to subtract we have to subtract the previous thing, like this expression. So that will be nothing but 0. Okay, and then this part is over. Now we'll see B intersection C. B intersection C is nothing but the elements that are common between the AND operator. We'll perform the AND operation, and hashtag 3 and 17 are the elements, hashtag 3 and 17. So after performing the union of both of the elements, the final answer is this. So if you got this answer, your answer is correct. Coming to the next part, you can solve this thing by yourself. Watch the video, attempt it. It's quite self-explanatory. Starting with the with or without replacement problems. Okay, a jar contains 10 red marbles, 4 white marbles, and 2 blue marbles. 2 are drawn in sequence, not replacing after each draw. That means we are not replacing it. That means the total number of quantity of the marbles will keep on decreasing as we'll remove a marble. Okay. So quantity A is the probability of drawing 2 red balls. Quantity 2 is the probability of drawing exactly 1 blue marble. So we'll have to calculate the two quantities and then the answer will be which one's greater. Okay, so try this problem and we'll see the solution. Pause the video, try the problem. Coming to the solution part. Okay, so we have 10 red marbles, 4 white marbles and 2 blue marbles, which implies total we have 16 marbles. Okay, so our first question is the probability of drawing 2 red marbles. So initially, first when we draw a red marble, the probability of it being a red marble is 10 by 16. We want 10 marbles and total we have 16. So 10 by 16. Next, the second marble which we'll draw is 9 by 15. Why? Because we are not replacing it. So after we remove one red marble, the probability of the second marble being red is 9 by 15. And when you calculate it, the answer will be 0.375. For the second question, we want that the probability of drawing exactly one blue marble, which implies either initially in our first draw we'll take out the blue marble, so the second draw will be either a red or a white marble, or what we could do is in our first draw we'll have either a red or a white marble, and in our second draw we'll have a blue marble. First initial blue marble will have a total of 2 by 16 probability, and after removing the blue marble, the total marble remaining will be 15, and the probability of a red marble will be 10 by 15, and the probability of white marble will be 4 by 15. For the either this or we are using like either this or the other part. So for or we are using the addition operator, and or it could be either a red or a white. So for initial probability to be a red marble is 10 by 16 or 4 by 16, and after we remove a red or a white marble, remaining marble will be 15, and we want a blue marble, so 2 by 15. Okay, and the entire calculation will give us the output 2.33 and 0.375 and 0.233. So 0.375 is greater. So our answer is A is greater. Coming to the next question, a bowl containing 10 marbles, 5 are blue and 5 are pink. If 2 marbles are picked randomly, what is the probability that the 2 marbles will not be pink? Pause the video, try the question. Solution is here. So we have 10 marbles, 5 are blue and 5 are pink. So what is the probability that pink marble will draw a pink marble? So the probability of it being a pink marble is 5 by 10, because there are total is 5 and 5 are pink. So 5 by 10 is the probability. 5 by 10, that is 1 by 2 in our first draw, but we have to draw 2 marbles. So for the second draw we'll have 4 by 9, because total minus 1, right? The concept which I explained before. So initial will be 5 by 10, that is 1 by 2, and the second draw will be 4 by 9, which is total being 2 by 9. And this is the probability of the marble being pink, and the question asked is will not be pink. And as my colleague explained, it should be 1 minus the probability. So 1 minus 2 by 9, that is 7 by 9. So if you got your answer as 7 by 9, your answer is correct. Coming to the next question. 2 marbles are drawn at random with replacement. Note the word with replacement. This implies that we are not subtracting the total, because after removing in one thing in one draw, this will again replace it. So the total number will always be the same. Okay. So 2 marbles are drawn at random with replacement from a box containing 2 red, 3 green and 4 blue marbles. So I'm so sorry. So for it to be let A be 2 marbles are drawn, B be 2 green marbles and C be 2 blue marbles, and we have to find probability of A. So probability of drawing 2 red balls will be initially 2 by 9, because 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 9, and we have 2 red balls, so 2 by 9. And after drawing a marble, will again replace it. So because we are replacing it, the total number of outcomes will be 9, and the the probability of it being a red marble is 2 by 9. So we'll multiply it and we'll get 4 by 81. And similar is the case with green balls, 3 green balls and 4 blue balls. Coming to the next concept. Next problem. Above are 10 colored balls in a box, 4 red, 3 green, 2 blue and 1 black. A ball is randomly selected. After each selection, the ball will be returned to the box, which implies total number of outcomes will be same. So what is the probability that if a ball or balls are randomly selected, that we choose is a red ball? And the other respective questions. So pause the video, try the questions, solutions here. For it being a red ball, we have 4 red and total number of balls is 10. So the probability of it being a red ball is 4 by 10. 4 by 10, that is 40% chances of it being a red ball. Then the question is a black ball. What is the so for a black ball, we only have 1 black ball. So 1 by 10 would be the probability. Not a blue ball, we have 2 blue balls and total number of balls are 10. So 10 minus 2, that is 8. So the probability of it not being a blue ball will be 8 by 10, that is 80%. A blue and a green ball. So initially, for the blue ball, it will be 2 by 10, because there are total 2 blue balls, and 3 by 10 because there are total 3 green balls. And we'll multiply and we'll get the answer 6 by 100, that is 0.06%. 0.06, that is 6%. Last, a red ball and 2 green balls. That means we are removing total of 3 balls. So initially 4 by 10 because of the red ball, 3 by 10, that is the first green ball, and 3 by 10, that this is the second green ball. So 1 red ball, then a green ball, then a green ball. So 1 red and 2 green. That's 36 by 1000, that is 0.036, which is 3.6%. Coming to the next part, Bayes theorem. Okay, let's see the definition of Bayes theorem. The probability that an event A occurs, given that another event B has already occurred, is equal to the probability that the event B occurs, given that A has already occurred, multiplied by the probability of occurrence of event A and divided by the probability of occurrence of event B. Too complicated. Okay. Well, we could understand this part that it holds true for the dependent events. Okay, and this one is the formula for the Bayes theorem. P of A by B is equal to P of P by A into P of A upon P of P. Let's understand Bayes theorem with an example. A bag 1 contains 4 white and 6 black balls, while another bag 2 contains 4 white and 3 black balls. One ball is drawn at random from one of the bags and it is found to be black. Find the probability that it was drawn from bag 1. Pause the video. See if you are getting the solution. Okay, so we have 2 bags. So first we'll have to calculate the probability of which bag we are choosing. Let us see the solution. Let E1 be the event of choosing bag 1 and E2 be the event of choosing bag 2. Okay, so we have 2 bags. If we are choosing one of the bag, the probability of choosing one bag will be 1 by 2. Like if you choose E1, it will be 1 by 2. If you choose E2, it will be 1 by 2. Okay, now considering that we have chosen bag even, so probability of A by even is equal to drawing a ball from bag 1. Means we have chosen bag 1, and in bag 1 we have 6 black balls, and total is 6 plus 4, 10. So 6 by 10, which is 3 by 5. Now this implies that the probability that an event A occurs, given that another event B has already occurred, which implies that we have already chosen bag 1. So in bag 1 now we are choosing black balls. So that's the explanation of the first sentence. And P of E by E2, that if we have chosen back 2, the probability of drawing a black ball will be 3 by 7, because 4 plus 3 is 7 and we have 3 black balls. 3 by 7. So using the Bayes theorem, the probability of drawing a black ball from bag 1. Now, as mentioned in the question, we have to find the probability of drawing a black ball from bag 1. That's the reason why we are calculating P of E1 by A, and substituting everything in the formula, we'll get the answer 7 by 12. So if you got 7 by 12 as the answer, your answer is correct. Coming to the next question, type by yourself. A man is known to speak the truth 2 out of 3 times. He throws a die and reports that the number obtained is a 4. Find the probability that the number obtained is actually a 4. Okay, so let E be the event that the man reports that number 4 is obtained. Let E1 be the event that 4 is obtained, and E2 be its complementary. Like, we have to see whether we actually got a 4 or not. Okay, so if a probability of even, that is probability that 4 actually occurs, is 1 by 6, because in the die we have a total of 6 numbers and we have only 1 4, so 1 by 6. And probability of E2, probability that 4 does not occur, is 1 minus probability of even, that is 1 minus 1 by 6, which is 5 by 6. 1 minus the part as explained before. Probability of A by even, that is probability that man reports 4 and it is actually a 4, is 2 by 3, because he says that he speaks the truth only 2 out of 3 times. Okay, so the probability that the man reports 4 and it is not 4 will be 1 by 3, because 1 minus 2 by 3 is 1 by 3. And putting all of these inside the formula, you'll get the answer 2 by 7. And if you got the answer 2 by 7, your answer is correct.
So these are a few practice problems for you to solve. Do solve these problems and comment down below the answers to each of these questions, and we'll discuss it there. Handing over the presentation to Ali, he'll explain you the rest.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Measures of central tendency. A measure of central tendency is a single value that attempts to describe a set of data by identifying the central position within that set of data. The mean, median, and mode are all valid measures of central tendency, but each of them assume a different position. Thus, let us look at the mean, median, and mode and learn how to calculate them. Mean. Mean is the arithmetic average of a data set. To calculate the mean, we divide the sum of all observations by the number of all observations, that is denoted by the formula below. Median. The median is the value of the middlemost observation in a dataset, where the numbers are listed in either ascending or descending order. To understand the formula, say that n is the total number of observations. Also, one thing to note is that if the number of terms is odd, then the median is the value of the term in the middle, that is denoted by the formula below. But if the number of terms is even, then the median is the average of the two terms in the middle. The formula is noted below. Mode. The value which appears most often in a given data, that is, the observation with the highest frequency, is called a mode of the data. An example to help you understand this concept better. A cricketer's scores in 7 ODI matches are as follows: 40, 12, 34, 24, 45, 50, 24. Let's calculate the mean, median, and mode of the above data set. The formula for mean would be mean is equal to sum of all observations upon number of all observations. So the sum of all observations is 231 and the number of all observations is 7. So mean would be equal to 231 by 7, which is equal to 33. Hence, the mean of the above data is 33. The steps to calculate the median would be: step 1, arrange the data set in ascending order as I arranged below: 12, 24, 24, 34, 40, 45, 50. That would be the arranged data set in ascending order. Step 2, calculate median. As the number of terms is odd, the median would be calculated through the odd formula. the total number of observations is 7. Hence, the median would be 7 plus 1, which would be 8, divided by 2. 8 by 2 is equal to 4. Fourth observation would be the median of the above data set. The method to find mode is very simple. In the above data set, the observation 24 repeats twice, more than any other observation in the data set. Hence, the mode of the above observation is 24. We would now like to conclude our webinar. Thank you all for your incredible patience, and we hope that the content we provided would be useful to all of you. Thank you.